small practice called QS Squared, who we've recently set up. I'm going to, first of all, my presentation is going to be split into 3 parts essentially. First of all, I'm just going to talk about what a quantity surveyor is, because I tend to find not many people know or understand what a quantity surveyor is. It's quite a niche discipline. Second part is just a really brief market update as to the way costs are heading. As you can guess up, they don't tend to come down very often. But that's a little bit of imparted knowledge. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about depreciation of property and the schedules we provide and you can benefit from in tax deductions. So first of all, what is a quantity surveyor? Essentially, a quantity surveyor is an expert in the art of costing of a construction project throughout its stages. So be that conception all the way through to once it's built, life cycle. Traditionally, the QS's role is to define and manage the cost of a construction project. And typically, the quantity surveyor is engaged by the client to ensure that A, the project is, first of all, you can afford to do it. It's going to, it's not going to blow your budget. Once started, the project is running on budget and to contract. So we ensure the contracts can be applied to, and we ensure that you're still within budget. And C, payments are managed and any necessary valuations required by financiers of the project are met. So if there's any banks involved or lenders, we can validate payments and valuations in effect. Oops. So a bit more. Quantity surveyors are a specialist skill set combining project, commercial and construction management. So whereas project managers typically are fantastic at managing projects, obviously they're not necessarily the most commercially gifted of people. We offer a slight enhancement of a project manager, I'd like to think. We have a commercial background, we know, we deal in cost. We're going to make sure you don't get your pants pulled down by builders. So the quantity surveyor is able to accurately measure, quantify building works required, or prescribe and apply the knowledge of construction costs to estimate and or value the cost of works for a client. They're essential for life cycle costing, cost planning, procurement and tendering, contract administration and commercial management. And mainly, I suppose, is the fact that we're engaged by the client, we're engaged by you, so we work on your behalf. We're your protectionism, I suppose, in a way, between you and the builder. We work on your behalf to protect your asset, to protect your investment, I suppose, as much as anything. Just a quick overview, I suppose, of some of the services or roles that the QS typically carries out the functions. So cost planning and commercial management throughout the entire life cycle of a project. So that's from you drawing up your initial idea of what you want to do. So say you build 2 houses, give us a rough idea of the spec, we can give you an idea of the cost. The more information we get, obviously, the more accurate we can be. And we can take that all the way through to building it, finishing it, and even the cost is going to, the amount of money it's going to cost you to maintain it if it's maybe not a residential property, it's a commercial property. Value engineering, risk management and calculation of risk, procurement advice and assistance during tendering. So obviously tendering for a layman can be pretty daunting. Typically people will just go to builders who they know or who they've heard a good word about. That's probably not the best way to procure anything. Generally if you're buying something or something you're going to spend maybe $1 million on, you don't want to just go with Joe Bloggs down the road because you heard he's great, dealing with quite a lot of money. Tender analysis and agreement of the contract sum. So again, we can deal with negotiations with builders and commercial management and contract administration. We can do assistance in dispute resolution in terms of being an expert witness, I suppose. Asset capitalisation, interim valuations and payments assessment. So again, we can value what's been built against what the builder's claiming to be paid. And depreciation scheduling. So I'll come on to that in more detail later. Assessing the additional costs of design variations. So again, rather than just instructing something, find out what it's going to cost you first and don't just get it from the builder. If we're engaged for a full project, again, if you want to change something, change is expensive. Change is an expensive cost in construction. But again, if you've got someone on your side who knows what it is going to cost really, rather than what the builder's telling you it's going to cost, then you're at an advantage. You've got a bargaining chip. We can do valuations for insurance purposes, so fire replacement, etc. And life cycle costing, so that's the cost to maintain the asset that you've built. Be that over however many years, we can extrapolate out what we feel, and it gives you an idea of what the running costs of a building are maybe going to be. So again, more on the point, I suppose, that we are working for the client. So we represent the client and ensure that you're getting best value. The client benefits from our expert knowledge of commercial management, basically by getting greater cost certainty from stage A when you first come across the idea to build your 2 houses. Supporting, selecting and negotiating with builders, again, it's typically not something the average layman wants to or has any knowledge of doing. Access to value engineering, again, we work on a variety of projects. We see ideas, innovations, we can bring them to you. Foresight of building cost, risks and mitigation strategy. So again, we've got a bit of an idea of what might be a risk, what might cost you money, and we can either steer you away from that or give you a clear idea of what that risk is going to cost. And just peace of mind, I suppose, that you are getting best value. You know, you're not just trusting your cash with a builder who may in turn be sticking his 20-30% on top. So that's really just a summary of what we do. In terms of the current markets, like I said, a little bit of knowledge imparted on you. Generally across the board, well, there's a thing called the national tender price escalation, which is based on tenders across the board, all different sectors. So there's a middle map of Australia showing all the different states. I'll concentrate on Victoria as we're in Victoria. Typically, for 2016, we can see that tenders generally have gone up by 2.5%. So that's 2.5% additional that you would have paid building costs to 2015. Inflation obviously matters, you know. But when we're factoring into our estimates, we're also factoring in, if you're building this in 2018, what's the market like in 2 years' time, you know? Is it still 2.5% or is it 4%? So we've got a bit of foresight and we gauge the market to assess whether or not that 2.5% is actually going to be 4%. So looking forward, 2017 onwards, construction costs are forecast to rise 9% in New South Wales and Queensland by 2018. So if you were banking on 2.5%, 2018 you're starting your build, you know, your chances are you could be 7% out. There's a variety of different reasons that affects the construction market. A lot of it is just demand and supply, like any other market. And also the fact of unions. Obviously there's EBAs are agreed in New South Wales and Queensland, which can add additional costs in wages. Also obviously imports into Australia, with the dollar weakening against the US dollar, the price rises. 2017-18, for Victoria, we're expecting a less dramatic rise. We're expecting it just to stay at a steady sort of 2.5 to 3% per year. That's generally because the market for high rise will start to decrease over the next couple of years, so there'll be more supply, I suppose, so demand will not outstrip supply. This is obviously all pretty macro level stuff, but generally whatever happens at macro level happens at macro level. So if prices go up, 9%, at the top level of the market, they're going to go up 9%, or to a degree, 7 to 9% at the bottom end of the market as well. So no one's immune to that. So this is just a little bit of a chart showing the history of the costs and tender prices from, so say from 2006 to 2018. You can see this goes in cycles. So you can see Victoria, 2016, 2017 to 2018, we're only expecting 2.5, 2.3, 2.2, so pretty steady. Queensland's steady but at a higher rate, and the same with New South Wales. The reasons for it: a continuing decline in AUD against the US dollar continues to put pressure on tender prices due to the proportion of the materials which are imported from Asia in particular. Within Vic, as I say, there's no real cause for alarm with the cost rising. They're rising at a sustainable rate. As I say, New South Wales and Queensland, there is significant increase forecast for the next couple of years, which adds complexity into projects. And again, if you've got someone who can manage that risk and just flag it to you that potentially, your 2.5% that you've allowed escalation on your costs is not really realistic, then you're an advantage. It doesn't become a nasty surprise when in 2018 you build your 2 houses and the cost goes up by 7%. So the third part of my presentation is really about depreciation schedules and so depreciation of property schedules. So depreciation is a tax deduction available for the decline in value of any asset over time due to wear and tear. Property depreciation specifically relates to the investment or income generating properties and refers to the deductions available for the decline in value of a building and its plant and equipment assets over time, so the equipment within the building. It allows you to claim internal items like ovens and carpets, and on construction costs of the building itself, so the concrete and brickwork, the actual fabric of the building that's cost you to build it. It's applicable for all income generating properties, not just second home but commercial premises, and the deductions reduce taxable income, allowing the owner to pay less tax and increase cash flow from an investment property. A depreciation schedule is what we provide. So a depreciation schedule has to be compiled by a QS. It's just the ATO have a certain parameter of who has the knowledge to produce them, and the QS is one of the disciplines on to provide that. The depreciation schedule is a comprehensive report that outlines the depreciation deductions claimable by the investment property owner on the property's building structure and the fixtures and fittings within it. A depreciation schedule prepared by QS is one of the best ways to maximise cash return from investment property each financial year across the 40 years or so. So there's two methods of working out depreciation. The capital works allowance I'll talk about. Capital works allowance is a deduction available for the structural element of a building, so the actual capital, the building itself, including fixed and removable assets. This is commonly referred to as building write-off. So capital allowance deductions are based on the historical cost of the building, excluding the cost of the plant and non-eligible items. So it's not what the house is worth, it's what the house cost when it was built. Or so you built it 2005, it's not what it's worth now, it's what did it cost in 2005. So that's where I suppose the QS side of things comes into it. They want someone to know how much it would have cost in 2005 as a reasonable estimate. So if a residential investment property was built any time after July 1985, then the owner is entitled to claim building write-off allowance of 2.5% or 4% for 40 or 25 years from the date of construction. The write-off allowance available on a property is determined by the date of commencement of the capital improvement works. So again, when the works were carried out. All income-producing buildings, refurbishments, extensions and fit-outs which have commenced construction within the correct dates should qualify for a Division 43 allowance. Plant and equipment depreciation then, so the actual plant and equipment that goes into the buildings. So it's a deduction that's available for assets that depreciate at a faster rate than the building. Each plant and equipment item has an effective life which is set by the ATO, so there's various different life cycles for every little piece of the building. And depreciation against each individual item is calculated on that merit. Some items of plant and equipment commonly found in a property, so hot water services, ceiling fans, dishwashers, range hoods, carpet, smoke alarms, freestanding spas, blinds, air conditioning units, exhaust fans, security systems, so all manner of little bits and pieces. For older properties, so current tax legislation states any property built before 1985 or 1982 for non-residential cannot claim capital works allowance as a deduction. However, if you've had any work done to that property, so say you extended it in 1990, you could claim it against the extension. So although the building is older than 1985, the works to it afterwards are still claimable. In the case of older properties, a capital allowance and tax depreciation report covers not only the capital works allowance but the depreciation of the plant and equipment. So you can still claim plant and equipment, and you can still claim it if there's been any modifications to that building in the meantime. This means that all properties that obtain an income by way of rent should be eligible to claim a deduction for plant and equipment items contained within the property, so regardless of the age. There's two methods used to depreciate. So the ATO has two recognised methods. So there's diminishing value and prime cost method. Which one you choose is really a discussion between you and your accountant as to what your objectives are. Long-term intention of the property investor will determine which depreciation method is most suitable. So you've got to decide really to use one method, and each method will affect the long-term cash flow position in a different way, which again is something you need to review with your accountant, and they will advise you which is the best suits your long-term objectives and financial goals. which is the way of depreciating plant types which cost less than $1,000 or have an undeducted cost of less than $1,000. So any asset in a rental property which costs less than $1,000 can be included in a low value pool. The low value pool has an accelerated rate of 18.75% in the first year of ownership and then 37.5% each year thereafter. So the following assets can be allocated to low value pool. So low cost assets under 1,000 and low value assets. So low value assets are assets which have been depreciated to a point where they're below 1,000. So they then become low value pool assets. So low cost assets, a depreciable asset of an opening value of less than 1,000 in a year of acquisition. Say you have a window blind, $900, I'd go in the low value pool. You also have low value assets, so a depreciable asset which is a written down value of less than 1,000. So again, if you had a window blind that was, say, it cost 4,000, but by year 5 its value, once it had been written down, was less than 1,000, it could go into the low value pool. The following cannot be allocated to a low value pool, so assets which have had deductions claimed using the prime cost method, so you can't use it if you use the prime cost method, and assets that cost $300 or less, these are claimed as an immediate write-off. Immediate write-off, assets that fall under $300 can be written off immediately. So they're low value. So low value pooling is a useful tool where items are part of a set. So if you say you had window blinds again, you can, rather than treating them as a whole group, so say you had 8 windows, you had 8 window blinds. The cost of the 8 window blinds would say be 5,000, but if you could effectively call them one each. So you could say there's 8 items at 500, not one item at 4,000. So you can depreciate them at a higher rate, quicker, by individualising them. So 4,000. So rather than it being 4,000, which is depreciated at the normal level or the prime cost method at 4%, whatever, you can, depreciate it at 37.5% after year 1, if you can split it down into sets. So the same rationale as well can be applied where there's multiple owners of property. So here you shared ownership. The asset is shared ownership. Property depreciation schedules it needs to be done by QS. We have the knowledge of the various asset life cycles to apply it to. We unlock the low value pool items, and then and the great thing about it is as well, the fee you pay is also tax deductible. Again, we work in hand with accountants to produce these things. We'll submit your depreciation schedule to your accountant, and again, if you speak to your accountant, they can advise what the best method is for you. Our report provides it in the 2 formats, so you get the prime cost method and the diminishing value method, so it gives you the 2 options.
Is it done?
Yeah, that's it. It gives you the 2 options, and then your accountant works from there. So hopefully it was of some interest. The depreciation schedules is a small part of what we do. We do a lot of other stuff. We are very interested in getting involved in developments and assisting people with building projects, and our fees are pretty competitive. So.
Yeah, there is.
Good. Anyone got any questions or?
You involved in and been approved through the major banks?
Not currently. Something I'm working on for bank monitoring. Yeah.
So for larger projects, it would be difficult.
Yeah, for larger projects. So it would be pretty small scale stuff for the second, with a view to moving on to larger stuff.
Residential?
Residential, yeah.
To what value?
Probably up to about. Probably up to 2.5, I'd say.
Okay.
And it depends really who the bank is and what their stipulations are. If you wanted us to do bank management or.
Yeah. I'll talk about properties.
Yeah.
Project.
Yeah. Any other?